This week was supposed to be all about overhauling the nation's tax system, but Senate Republicans have a whole other set of problems that just landed in their lap in the form of a Republican candidate running to join their ranks in a special election is caught up in a huge scandal involving underage sexual abuse allegations and now threats of lawsuits. The panel tonight: Rich Galen, Republican strategist, former aide to Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich and Vice President Dan Quayle, if you need to know. Mike Morey, finally got it right, Democratic strategist and former communications director for Senator Chuck Schumer. Josh Rogan, CNN political analyst and columnist for The Washington Post. And Jeff Balaban, member of President Trump's re-election advisory board. Great to see you all. Let's get to it. Rich.
Ma'am.
More Republicans doesn't make it easier. More Republicans coming out to say now, I mean, this afternoon it's been a bit of a flood, right? You've got all of the Republican senators, more and more coming out to say that Roy Moore has to go. Mitch McConnell, most noteworthy among them. Does Mitch McConnell have an impact here?
Well, he has an impact because I looked this up on the train on the way up here. Article 1, Section 5 starts out by saying, Clause 5, that each house shall be the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its members. Qualifications is a big, wide swath. And the Senate could decide that Roy Moore, assuming he's elected, and frankly, I think he will be, does not meet the qualifications of a United States Senator, and by a 2/3 vote, they throw him out.
Yeah, but you think that clause might have been pulled a few times before this one.
Oh, no, it has been.
I can think of a few instances.
I mean, there's a few instances that we can all talk about right now.
The House threw Adam Clayton Powell.
You know what's interesting about this one? I love you and your history. McConnell and Trump are on the same page in one regard on this one. I don't know if they're on the same page exactly on this, but on this front, Roy Moore was not their guy.
Right.
They supported Luther Strange.
That's right.
So on this front, I mean, why do you think the White House is leaving Roy Moore room? It seems to me politically expedient to say, this isn't our guy in the first place. This is not the guy we backed.
Well, political expediency isn't necessarily what's right for the voters of Alabama. The truth is that right now, everything's being tried in the court of public opinion. You know, the recent statements don't look that great, that denials that aren't full denials. And maybe there are others who are taking the more politically expedient route of saying, you know, get him out of here. But I think the White House's position has been, you know, if he's done this, he needs to step down. And that's clearly the right position. But we're not there yet. He hasn't admitted to it. And let the Alabama voters decide.
Yeah, I think the White House has a particular problem, though, because, you know, let's be honest, Donald Trump is on tape suggesting he was involved in sexual assault at one point. But on top of that, you've got a candidate who is, I mean, Mitch McConnell calling for his ouster or just stepping aside is the best thing that ever happened to Moore in Alabama, because he's running an entire campaign on taking out the GOP establishment. So Trump, who's trying to sort of take care of that part of the party as well, and who actually articulated regret after the primary of not supporting Moore.
That's true.
He's in a particular box here.
You know, I think overall what we're seeing here is a downgrading of the power of Washington altogether, because whether you're the White House or you're Mitch McConnell or you're the Democrats, none of those people know how this is going to come out, because none of those people think that the voters in Alabama are following us here anymore. They're not following the Washington Post.
Yeah.
They're not believing what they read in the mainstream media, and they don't care what Mitch McConnell has to say.
And they have known Moore for a long time.
Yeah.
And just brief history, Roy Moore has been a judge in Alabama. He's been a figure forever. He's been kicked off the bench twice, and they have reelected him to these posts twice.
Right.
It's polarizing and popular.
Right.
Polarizing and popular.
It's a lose-lose for the Republican establishment.
What's the burden of truth, though? This is a big question to me, because I'm not asking, is he guilty or innocent in the court of law. This election, which is next month, is going to happen well before anything in that regard is going to be established. This is about whether or not you should be a senator, and that gets back to Rich Galen's point.
Right. I think, right, it's not a court of law. It's not innocent until proven guilty. He is not meeting the standard as we in politics and government and media know it, to run for and hold the position of the U.S.
Well, no, excuse me. It's the state of Alabama. It's up to them. I mean,
of course. That's my point, is that there's this disconnect now between what all of us who are involved in politics and work in politics think should be the standard for U.S. Senator and what's actually going to happen in that election.
Changed across the board.
And also remember that the opponent, Doug Jones?
Yeah,
Doug
Jones.
The Democrat.
Yeah, he's a Democrat. I mean, he's not a Richard B. Russell Southern Democrat from the 50s. He's a real live, no kidding around
There's a difference between expediency and what's right for the voters of Alabama. Right now,
my point though is that if Jones wins, he's not going to sort of be like Kennedy on the court. He's going to be a solid vote for Chuck Schumer. He's a Democrat.
I have this thought, but I do want to play. We're talking about the people who really are making this decision are the voters in Alabama in the end. Here's what some of the voters in Alabama are saying. Listen to this.
This is a country based on justice and on a person's innocent until proven guilty, and that stuff needs to sort itself out.
If he went to the Lord, whatever, and asked for forgiveness for that, and hasn't done anything like that since then, I believe that if the good Lord's forgiven him as a Christian, I have to forgive him also.
I'm not going to vote for him because I'm a Democrat.
But he says, I've known him for forever, and I actually believe him. That's the end bit of that. In the end, it's the voters in Alabama that are going to decide. What's a Democrat to do?
Look, in the end, it is. I think the standard by which, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, if you even remotely connected to something like this, your political career is over, you're gone, you're out. Things have changed dramatically in the last 16 to 18 months about what's acceptable in American politics. Just because the standard of proof in something like this is, are you a D or an R? And it depends on where you're from. It's as simple as that. There is no standard. That's all that matters anymore. And this is, I think, the classic case of sort of what we've seen unfold.
But Mitch McConnell realizes that if Roy Moore wins, that's good for Roy Moore, but really bad for the Republican
That's what
brand.
I was going to... Give me your take. Roy Moore wins. He's going to be in Washington, and Mitch McConnell's going to have to work with him. I mean, how?
No, I think they'll throw him out.
You really think that they'll go that way?
I do. I think that they will come to their senses. In the Senate, that's a long stretch, but I think they will absolutely say this man is not qualified to sit with us.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either.
I think they're gonna swallow it, and they're going to sit across the table from him
and say,
accept him and negotiate with him.
Republican vote.
But it's going to be
decided.
When it comes, real quick, Jeff, give me your take. Mitch, all of these Republicans coming out. Does President Trump need to make a statement, need to say more on this? They say right now he's overseas. He hasn't been really briefed on it. But if you look at his Twitter feed, he's talking about a whole bunch of domestic issues on Twitter already. He's got no problem walking through.
I think he's already made his position clear on this. And I think for what's come out already, it's correct. It's appropriate, which is to say, certainly there's been no admission. Roy Moore is denying it. And I think that what he's saying now is, well, and the most recent statements don't seem as clear. And he said if he's done it, he needs to step down, needs to step out, knowing that hands that seat over to Democrats. And he's saying that anyway. And I think that's the appropriate stance right now. He shouldn't be prejudging this.
Yeah, but wait.
Because he is the president.
During the middle of the presidential campaign, Donald Trump was on national television saying Hillary Clinton was no longer qualified to run for the presidency of the United States without having been convicted of anything based on rumor and accusation. And he said she wasn't qualified to run.
How
is that? This is a man who went on a date with a 14-year-old girl.
If we're going way into the past, Donald Trump's entire career started with him pushing a conspiracy theory of the birthplace of Barack Obama that obviously had no foundation in fact.
And then there was the whole Rutherford B. Hayes thing.
Exactly. If we're going way back there, don't even get me started. Thank you for the transition. But let's move on to this.